The scenarios and characters depicted in this video are fictional. References are not made specifically to any actual child welfare case, although the actors portraying characters may be child welfare professionals and the questions and issues may be based on real experience. These sessions are not scripted and are meant to demonstrate techniques and approaches in a learning environment. In this scenario, Rose has requested coaching in family engagement strategies and meets with Heather to reflect on her practice to improve performance. In the interview, watch for the phases of the child welfare skills-based coaching model: reflection, scaling questions, different types of questions, giving information, commitment for next session, including role play.
Rose, it's great to see you. Thanks for coming in today. I'm so excited to hear updates on how your engagement practice is going with families. So if you want to share with me a story about a case that you've really worked hard to engage the family on, we can go from there. And if there's something else you'd like us to work on today, just let me know.
Okay. Well, there's one in particular, the Green family, and I just was out to see Mrs. Green for a home visit, checkup on the in-home safety plan. And I think the session went really well, but I'm still kind of struggling with how to make sure, and I'm nervous about going out and seeing Mr. Green. I didn't see him this time, but just focused in on Mrs. Green and whether she was sticking to the in-home safety plan.
Okay.
So the main thing we're focusing, like I said, is the safety plan, and what I went out and I said, okay, I'm going to make sure that I don't jump to giving her conclusions or ideas. I really want her to come up with her own solutions.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you feel like you're engaging Mrs. Green more effectively than Mr. Green.
Right.
So tell me what you're doing really well. What specific ways, what techniques are you using or practicing that you think is really helping Mom to connect with you?
So I think that I used several different of the scaling questions.
Okay.
Not only about Mom's perception, but I asked her about her husband's perception of the level of safety, what she thought her daughter thought the level of safety was. And she did give me different answers about, like she said her and her husband thought that there really wasn't much of a safety issue, that there wasn't much chance that Mr. Green would hit his daughter again. But she did admit that her daughter probably thinks that there's a much higher chance.
Great.
So I thought it worked really well in her starting to see that it wasn't all just about saying, did they hit or not, or what the adults' perceptions were, but that maybe also looking at George's perceptions also.
Okay. So what else were you doing in that moment to help her understand, or I guess check for understanding, that are you guys on the same page about what your worries are and how worried you might be about the safety plan working or not working?
Right. So I thought we got a good start on it, of saying what the different perceptions were, that I was pretty good most of the time of doing that reflective listening and not interrupting her too quickly like I do sometimes.
Okay.
And just all those kind of good things of keeping eye contact and whatever. So she seemed to be pretty relaxed about talking with just me there, really talking about what's going on and her concerns and her struggles. We used a little bit of a coping question by just saying that she's struggling with so many things and how was she doing, and she was able to list out some things that she's doing to make things better.
Okay.
So I think that helped also, just to acknowledge that she's really been through a lot of stuff the last year and a half.
So by focusing on what she wanted to focus on just as much as what you wanted to focus on, you see progress in her ability to connect with you.
Right.
Okay.
And in the first part of the interview, she said some things that had me really concerned, but I didn't jump on them right away. So it was really, it's like one of them, she said something about the father, that it was just a mistake. And in the past, I would have really jumped on that and just kind of drilled down on her, like, how come you don't believe this really happened? Or
right,
something
you're
like
worried
that.
that she's minimizing something that might have had a stronger impact on the child than she's willing to acknowledge. Yeah. So tell me about all the skills that you know work well with Mom. What might get in the way when you're working with Dad?
I think when I'm dealing with fathers who can get really angry and they use really intense intensity in their voice and their words. I mean, he's never done anything dangerous with me or whatever, but I get very nervous around them.
Okay. So acknowledging how you might feel uncomfortable or something that's triggering you about the way the father is speaking to you, but may or may not be as threatening as you're thinking that it might be.
Right.
Okay. What do you think might be able to help him know that you really do respect what he has to say and that it's important to hear his side of the story?
Yeah, that's where I get kind of unsure. Just if I should say it to him, or I just ask him. I know the listening part is always the big part. It's like just
well,
really
matching the
listening.
tone is one of the other things we've talked about sometimes. And so, if he's yelling, you don't want to match his tone and yell. But in the same token, you want to acknowledge that he's feeling passionate about something, right? Sometimes we consider people's complaints really ways in which they're voicing a commitment. So if you can figure out if he's complaining about something, what is the underlying commitment? How might you be able to get that underlying commitment that's led to a complaint to the surface so that Dad can see it that way? So on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being that this visit with the Greens this past month, you had to see both parents in their own homes and the child. Was it your least successful visit if it's a 0, you want to do it over, or a 10, you really feel like you practice some new skills, you achieve the purpose of the time together with the family, that you're making progress in helping the family get shared understanding and shared agreement about what needs to happen? How'd you do?
Well, since there were several different interviews and home visits, I guess maybe I'll average them. I think with the mother and the daughter, I did really well. Maybe 8, 7, 8.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I was able to use my skills a lot better.
Okay.
With the dad, like I said before, I felt like that interview was not as good. I got very nervous and started rushing to conclusions and suggestions.
Yeah. Well, let's focus then on that one. What's one thing you might be able to do that would make you feel like you could move your interview next month from whatever you scored it at? If it's lower than a 7 or 8, what number would you give it?
I think about 4.
What would move it from a 4 to a 5?
I think if I could really slow down, literally like feel my heart slow down, my voice slow down, and not, as you were saying earlier, not pick up on his intensity, that when his voice and volume and intensity goes up, to really learn that I can stay slowed down and not match him, but actually keep it slower so that hopefully he would slow.
So you don't want to be reactive.
Right, yeah.
What's something you could do to be proactive in making sure that Dad has an opportunity to connect to you? What are you doing to help him feel like you can relate to his plight, to his situation, how he's feeling? How can you join with him?
I think some of the stuff that I was doing with Mom, along stuff like coping questions, because he's gone through a lot too.
Great.
And he may not always seem as sympathetic of the parent, because he's the one who actually ended up hitting his daughter, but he's actually gone through a lot with losing his job and being on unemployment, and the family, his role's really been changed. So I know it's been really stressful for him, but I don't know if I've ever said that to him.
Wonderful. So what you're pointing out, and this is the feedback I would give you, is to acknowledge that maybe the power differential, agency versus family, can get in the way or be scary or make him feel like he has to defend himself, and that you're just two people trying to have a conversation because you both what's the common ground? What do you both have in common? And that's that you care very much about the safety and well-being of his daughter, and that you believe that she absolutely can be best served by having a strong relationship with both of her parents.
Okay.
Other ways you think you can do that?
I think I can do that. I think that would help to do it that way. And
what would it look like if you said to Dad, "I'm so sorry, sometimes I just get nervous when we talk. I'm not sure what that is."
Yeah, because that's true.
Right, just throw that honesty right out there. I wonder if he would see you less as a figurehead of an agency and more of just a person who's, human just like he is.
Okay.
Would that help increase the engagement, do you think?
I think so.
Okay.
And it would also be just showing him that I can tell him what I feel, and then it's okay to talk about those things.
So you willing to try that out, and the next time we get together we can talk about how it went?
Sure.
Okay. As we wrap this up, I want to check in with you to see what you felt was helpful about this, or what, if anything, you'd like to change or upgrade for next time we get together.
Well, I really find it's helpful that you always are so good about asking questions rather than telling me all the time what to do. But then you do give me suggestions when I get stuck. So
yeah, that's by design. Why do you think that's by design?
Well, obviously that's something I'm supposed to be doing with the family. That's the same
Right?
thing I'm supposed to be practicing with the family, is like get their ideas first, get their suggestions first, and only when they get stuck.
What do you notice about your response when I ask you a question instead of make a statement?
Well, I can really just feel like my brain's actually having to work. I mean, it's like, you just like, what am I supposed to do?
Critical thinking.
And trying to dig back to the different ideas that I've been taught and that you've shown me and stuff. So yeah, so it does make me do that critical thinking.
Yeah, and we want families to critically think their way through their situation, for better or for worse, with us, right? Because sometimes when we think for them and we share with them our ideas first, then they feel like they have to go along with that even if they disagree.
Right.
You always want to know if the family really does agree, genuinely, or if they disagree. Okay, any upgrades for next time?
Well, I think the stuff we're talking about with Dad, that's the, and because I know it's not just with this dad, but with some other dads too. So that's really going to be on my next thing to really work on here.
Okay.
Making sure that when I have angry dads, I don't get caught up in that.
Anything more I could do as a coach to be able to help you feel like you're focusing on those areas that you want to hone in on more closely, like maybe working with men or other issues?
Well, I was just thinking, since you're not always in the office, if I could set up an appointment with you by the phone right before I go out the next time, and we could maybe talk about it or even practice a little bit what I'm going to say, so I feel
so
fresh
maybe
on
role playing next time would be
Yeah.
a great way. Okay, I'd love to do that with you.
Okay, that
All
would
right,
be wonderful.
sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Rose. Keep up the good work.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Performance and development coaching models allow for the coach and the learner to identify areas for improvement in performance or areas for growth, and then set a system in place to meet specific goals and objectives. The CLEAR model provides systemic transformational coaching through purposeful facilitation of adult learning. If the change does not happen in the coaching session, it is unlikely to happen back at work. The CLEAR model works through 7 stages using a number of components and skills.